welcome to Crafts and Crime. I'm Amy.
I'm Elaine.
And as always, we have a craft and a crime.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggled with my craft until, and my crime, when we did the research for it. And then my crime, I really struggled. But we've been talking about struggling. I swear we start.
We have a bus. We have a pass, a yearly annual pass for the struggle bus. Okay.
Yep. And we renew it every year.
Yep.
Because it's just one thing after another. But, yeah, of course it could be worse. And so I'm just glad it's just regular day to day or illness stuff. Today was weird. I feel excuse me. I'm so sorry. I still feel like I'm adjusting to the medication. And I'm supposed to increase it, but I'm oh, let me give myself a little bit of time. So I think that just throws me off.
It really does.
And
you would think your brain would be happy to have the things that it needs, and it's I don't like this.
Yeah, let me just act up for 2 weeks straight, and then make your tummy hurt. So, yeah. Oh gosh, it's supposed to rain for
the next 9 days or something.
Oh, I love it.
I do, but also after 3 days, I'm just kind of bummed out. But that I grew up with it, so I'm over it. But I do wish it rained more here, just for the sake of the planet.
Yeah.
But the only problem is that it comes down all at once, and then people are wrecking because the ground is an oil slick, and there's floods. Oh my gosh, did you hear about? They found a homeless camp that they had dug in the side of the mountain.
Yes.
They had made like caves and stuff.
And they had like a bed
yes,
thing and like
a
a mantle.
Thing. Yeah. And of course, like they don't have the news and they're going to get flooded out. Like that's the reason why like a lot of the homeless encampments are like in the washes here.
Yeah.
And that's literally like a flash flood happens so quickly.
And we do, unfortunately, get those like, I'll see it on the Facebook group or like the local Facebook group or on Nextdoor that like a body was found down by the wash. And it's usually after a storm like this. And then
it happens so fast. They literally were probably asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. Sorry, that was a downer.
I know, but hey,
but it's the reality. Like it's
especially
scary
in our area, where we do have a lot of washes and stuff. But I don't like a lot of rain now that we have like farm animals because like, oh my gosh, the mud.
Yeah. That
chicken coop and where the quail are is so gross.
Luckily, the way the rain falls, the chicken run for mine are okay, but it's that it pools up so much on the edge, and then eventually that wicks the moisture into the middle. But
mine, the worst is the rabbit cover, the pop up. Oh my gosh, it's like falling apart. Tree. Yeah, well that, and then the water pools up in the top, and you have to go and like hit it off. Otherwise, the weight of it pulls it down, so it's all like literally like wonky sideways. I bet you if I look on the surveillance right now, it's like sideways. It's literally like falling apart, and I don't know what to do with it. Oh my gosh, like it's like here. Wait, let me just push play so I could pull it full screen. Yeah, look, it's all sideways. Oh my gosh, look at the one leg. It's like falling.
It's like splayed out.
Yeah. It's like a baby giraffe.
It's holding. Yes. The legs are splayed. It's like trying to hold itself up.
It's so bad. And so I'm like, oh man. But we still need to do the whole backyard and stuff. So we'll see what happens with that. But oh yeah. So I was talking to you earlier about, I'm not going to say the name of the company, but I do the laundry service. And in the state of California, for independent contractors, we have a lot of laws. And one of the companies, there's multiple in the state, but one of the companies that I work for, technically, there's allegedly, yeah, I'm not even saying which one it is, but there's a class action lawsuit that's starting because of labor laws in California. And so
because they're good.
Yeah.
You can't screw us over down here.
And so in Facebook groups for this company, like people create like the venting group and then like the local groups and stuff. And people are like, how are they not, like, we should be being paid more. And this is like, we drive, we use our vehicles, we use our own equipment. they say we're independent contractors, but we're not being, we don't have the freedom like an independent contractor is, so we should be employees. So it's this whole big thing, and I was like, I knew it. I called it. I knew this was going to happen. So that was fresh as of today. I just
seriously, it's so pyramid scheming and weird.
Yeah, it is. And I'm like, hey, I just need a few bucks, and I just do local. I have a few regulars that are really close. Like one of them is a 5-minute drive from our house, and then the other one is like 2-minute drive from Jack's work. It's like literally across from his work. So, but yeah, I'm like, I might start my own.
You should.
I should.
Because then everything would be deductible. Everything.
I know. I still have to talk to our tax.
I don't know how the math works, but I know that you can even deduct the amount of electricity you use. But you have to figure out that.
Yeah, there's someone who rents in the group I saw. He rents the basement of his apartment. I guess there's like a small basement area, and he has 3 washers and dryers, and it has its own separate meter. So it's completely like all like it has its own utilities and stuff. So since it's used only for the business, just like a store, you know, whatever, you know exactly how much. And I'm like, dang, I wish I had that. But I know there's like meter thingies that you could plug in, I think, to like track how much. But I'm
sure there's something. There's got to be.
It's all the hoops you got to jump through for taxes, which is why I'm like kind of dreading because
I did mine already. I got help. Well, I asked one of my best friends is a tax professional. Right. And so as not it's called miscellaneous income. It's not even because I'm not like my brain
like your own like an LLC or your own company.
Yeah. So it's just like if you were selling money at a garage sale, if you're being honest, you claim that money, it's miscellaneous income.
Yeah.
And so excuse me. So yeah, because I can't claim shipping costs. I can't claim anything. So, but
yeah, I looked into.
Or I'm sorry, I can't deduct anything. I don't have any deductions.
Yeah, since I have a 1099, like they mail it out, I can do deductions, like mileage and stuff. So like people that do like Instacart and Uber and stuff like that, you can. So I'm like in that category because I use my vehicle for their business. So. But yeah, we need to do that, and I hate it. But it's one of those things where it's like I don't want to do it, and then you like we have a tax guy that does it for us. But I
do it myself. It takes 20 minutes. It costs me $65, and
this year I'm afraid to mess anything up.
I have not had a single.
What do you do it through?
Tax layer.
Oh, okay.
Hashtag not
stuff
sponsored.
like TurboTax and stuff where people were like. What like the heck? What changed? I don't know what. Like people were. I think there's something with TurboTax. Oh, was it that they advertised that it was free and it wasn't?
All of those do that. It's only free if you're a single person with no kids, no house. Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
you can't have anything except like a job and a car.
Yeah, and we've got more than that. Yeah, so it's like
it's only free if it's like a super quick. I think it's like the most simple return.
Yeah, ours is not.
No, mine costs like, I think federal through TaxSlayer. Federal was it's flip flopped. It's one or the other. So
one's free and the other's like, not, or something.
No, one was like $25 and the other was like $45.
Okay,
so it was like $69 and some change. Yeah, and then every single page is like, okay, do you want a lawyer to make a will? No thanks. The next page, do you want to insure your house for volcanoes? No thanks. Like it's really funny. You go through like 6 of those. I'm like, just fucking check out already.
Yeah. No, we have a tax guy and he does really good. And so we just send everything into him. And so like we need to get on a conference call with him and talk about all the deductions and stuff that we need to add in. But I'm like, I don't want to do it. So we could also just send everything in and just like, I don't know. I just
tell him, do your best.
I don't like taxes.
The other thing you have to remember too is like, I know every dollar counts, but it's hilarious how much my miscellaneous income like because the way that taxes work, you have to round up or round down to the nearest dollar. It has to be a whole number. And so if you don't file your taxes yourself, the whole number, say you made $20,125.32, so you have to round it. It's just a solid no cents, no change. You round it down and it evens itself out in the wash. You have to round it. It's the way computer reads the numbers because the computer reads it, not even a person, until the computer catches some shit and then a person looks at it. My mom was an auditor for like forever. So anyway, yeah, it's just like the way that it turns out is like the amount that we made, which was not that much because I kind of remember you and I both made around the same. Yeah. Which was like it barely hit anything on my taxes. Yeah. If that makes you feel better.
That's what I think. Yeah. I know it's not going to be a lot and I have a lot of
it's
deductions.
It's just stressful.
Because I can do deductions as a 1099.
Yeah, from Pop. Yeah. Not anywhere.
It's fine.
I didn't say
fine.
it.
No.
Papa's grocery store.
Yeah.
That's not what it is. I'm just being silly.
So
it is definitely different. With I had to fucking claim. It makes me so mad. I had to sell some tickets through Ticketmaster, and I got my money, like most of it back. I did take a loss, but like you still have to claim that.
Yep.
Even though it's so dumb. It's so ridiculous. That's like my dad. My dad has been retired twice, once from the military and once from the state. So he's retired federally and like state, like local, stately, exactly. Stately. And it pisses me off so much that he has to claim his retirement from the military, and they have to pay taxes. He pretty much he owes a little bit quite often, but they just like he's like he owes from one and not from the other, so they just take it. But it's just like, seriously, you worked for the government for technically 40 years, but for 20 years, and then you have to claim the money that you paid in. It's so dumb. We all know. I don't know how taxes work outside of the United States in whatever way that
probably
they do
not
that.
as complicated as they make it here.
I hope not, for y'all's sake.
All those TikToks I see are like reels. It's like the IRS, like, you know, it's the person like going to turn it in. Like, okay, well, you know, I made some money. Like, here, can you tell me how much? No, you tell us. And it's like, why do I have to do it? It's like, you better get it right, otherwise you go to jail. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we messed up on taxes one year because I didn't send, what was it? It was half a year of income when Jack switched jobs. For some reason that didn't end up, remember that?
Yeah.
Some reason it didn't end up in the email. I didn't click on the picture, and so we had a half a year of income. So we owed a bit, but it wasn't a big deal because then they just took it out of the next year's return.
Yeah.
So it was a wash,
really
but
does
it was like, whatever.
It's like I was talking to my friend about it where, excuse me, we're both all burpy.
I know.
Which it was like, the thing is, they just want to know. They know how much you made. They just want to know if you're going to tell the truth. So it's like the little kid. It is. It's like a trap. It's like the little kid that runs in with like jelly all over their face. And you're like, did you eat the jelly? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
They want to know, are you going to tell the truth? We know, but are you going to tell the truth about it or not?
Exactly.
It's bullshit.
It is.
Ugh. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we want to move on to the content.
Yeah.
So you got your craft. You got your craft.
I got this craft.
Okay.
So my craft, as soon as I say it, you're going to be like, oh, of course. It's taxidermy.
Oh, I was like, oh my gosh. Because
were you about to?
No, but it was on a list like at the bottom of Wikipedia, and it's like all the other like related like wood and all this, and it was like taxidermy. I'm like, Eileen's going to do that.
It's so funny.
Because I can't do that because you do that.
Well, I mean, you could.
No, I mean, like, no, you have more knowledge in it than me.
Well, the thing is, I've never tanned hide, and you have.
That'll be one eventually.
Yeah, that'll totally be the craft we're going to record.
Yeah.
Probably on the Patreon, because I don't think everyone's going to want to see that. I don't know.
No, I'm going to do it. Well, no.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, so taxidermy.
Yeah. The word taxidermy is Latin-based, like most languages, for taxis, for arrangement or putting together, and derma for skin. So it's basically called put together skin.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Brutal. Yeah, exactly. So we got skin art. The arrangement of skin art. Ew. Exactly. Right?
Say that.
So I know it's grody, right? We start with what I like a lot, where I like to start at, with Louis Dufresne, who was a French ornithologist, which is someone that studies birds.
Okay.
He works at the Museum of National History in Paris. That is actually like the Museum of National History. And I'm like, I give up. I can't.
No.
But it's fancy. And he was actually the first person that we are aware of in the educational world of using this term in about 1803 of taxidermy itself. if the animal is full and complete, we actually call it it's called a replica.
Okay.
And what most people call like a mount is technically called a trophy mount. And that can even be just like a leg or something, but it's typically from like the neck up head of an animal.
Have you seen that funny video where it's like the back end of the deer with the balls in the bathroom, and the guy was like washing his hands, but he was like like, you haven't seen that one? He was like touching it, and then he gets caught and he's like, because it was like the butt end of the deer. But
is it the thing like where if you touch it, it like flicks the light or it makes a sound or something?
No, it was just in the bathroom to be funny. It was like the trophy,
so
but it wasn't the head. It was the butt end with the balls, and pretty gross. But it was in a bathroom, so it's kind of funny.
So silly.
Yeah,
freaking deer butt.
I'm like, I wonder if I can find it now, because now I'm thinking about it. But go ahead, sorry.
It's okay. So, the word trophy or mount, they pretty much just seem to be interchangeable. But so we know them as like, oh, it's a deer mount.
Yeah.
Of course, Egyptians did everything first. But the way that they did it is what we know as mummification. And they preserved everything like dogs and cats and birds and monkeys. And these things would go with the pharaohs to, join them in the afterlife.
Yeah.
But the thing was, because that they were wrapped up or sometimes even put in their own little sarcophagi, it wasn't about the look of them. So there was no real preservation of like their characteristics. Okay. So it's still a little bit different, but they did start the mummification process, which is a form of preservation of tissue.
Okay.
Which I've mummified. The easiest things to mummify are things like rodent feet, chicken feet, because there's not a lot of tissue on those kinds of bones. So it's a good place to practice for people who are going to practice.
Is it better on smaller things?
Mummification? Yeah, like certain things like legally obtained birds. There's the Migratory Bird Act, so you can't just go collecting birds in the United States and North America. Actually, a lot of the world has its own version. But like little birds that are like a pigeon. A pigeon is a bird that's allowed in the United States. There is so little innards of that bird that you might be worried about like a smell, but you probably could just cut it open and pack it with salt and mummify it that way if you didn't even want to take everything out.
Just like sounds.
I know. Yeah, it's not for the weak of heart. Somebody's got to really want to do it.
Yeah.
And then people think you're a serial killer. So, one time, there was an entire mummified hippo that was preserved and was with a pharaoh.
Hippo?
A whole hippo. That's crazy.
That's
I know.
Huge.
I know. It's
huge.
So, this is super, super cool. In Ponte Nosa, Italy, hanging from the ceiling of a cathedral is the oldest known mount in history. It's a crocodile, and texts from 1534 talk about this crocodile. So that's how we know that it's at least that old.
Yeah.
This makes a lot of sense, though. Crocodiles throughout history make the easiest mounts to do. Again,
really,
because the tissue is so thick, it's forgiving. Okay, and it's not really going to change its shape a whole lot because it's so thick on itself, and there's no moisture on it, so they tend to last for a very long time.
Okay.
Early taxidermists, before they called this, and maybe you've heard the term of being like older ones, they would just be like, oh, it was a stuffed tiger, it was a stuffed lion, it was a stuffed bear. And that was because back in the day they would take the skins to upholsterers. That's a hard word for me to say. I struggle with that. To an upholsterer, because they knew how to do the proper stitches. And so after the skin was prepared, which I will talk about a little bit.
Okay.
After the skin was prepared, they would take it to the upholsterer and they would fill it up with sawdust and old rags.
Yeah, I've seen old ones where it's full of just like stuff.
Mush. Yeah, you'll see like antique ones and like sawdust is falling out of it. So that's where that term stuffed animals. Oh, they also use like straw too. But again, these are
literally stuffed animals.
Yeah. But the problem is like all of these things would get damaged. Humidity is going to damage those kind of materials. It's going to absorb moisture.
Yeah.
Bugs are
going
to
stuff.
Bugs are going to eat that kind of stuff. You're going to have the same kind of bugs that eat your clothing. Moths and beetles are going to eat these type of specimens.
Okay.
So excuse me. The problem is, one thing that happened a lot with these lumpy, bumpy, frumpy animals was sometimes the person that was sewing this creature together had no idea what it should actually look like because they'd never seen it. Is that where you get like the bad taxidermy? Yes. And that happened a lot because of that reason. So I'm like, this is literally coming up. So they would really do their best. But the best example, this will totally be in the socials.
Okay.
The best example would be the Lion of Gripsholm Castle in Sweden. Most people have seen this, and he's
I
like,
think I know this one. Yeah.
His eyes are all cocked. It's terrible. So it was given to King Frederick I by the Dey of the Algiers in 1731. I had to look that up. I was interested. A Dey was pretty much like the head speaker for the Ottoman Empire at the time.
Oh, okay.
So it would be like just like the head speaker for the president.
Yeah.
So he was like, on behalf of us, we brought this. So
this thing.
Yes. So it was the very first lion to ever be in Sweden. But unfortunately, like I brought up, the taxidermist that made the lion had never seen a lion in person. And so he ended up referencing two artworks of lions like from the medieval time, which weren't very accurate either. And it's so pitiful. And most people have seen it.
What's it called?
The Lion of Gripsholm. So spelled like grip, Sholm. Gripsholm Castle.
Yeah.
Show me. Oh my gosh. Looks like something a kindergartner tried to draw. Like I made a lion.
Look at the tongue and the teeth. They're like human teeth.
They're flat. The body is like not terrible.
No, but the face is something else.
The ears, like where is its mane?
Yeah, it got a haircut. Yeah. Oh god.
Seriously, yeah, go look. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So this is the early preservation. It's totally fine.
It's really funny.
The early preservation techniques of the skin. So the way that they would do this first is that also in taxidermy, you don't ever have to see the guts and grossness inside. That's not part of what you're doing. You're just, I know you know this, but you're just cutting and peeling the skin off of the connective tissue. There's a very fine membrane in between. If you eat beef, that would be the silver skin is like the in-between part.
Yeah. It's the same thing with rabbits. Yeah. It's like there's we
are all biologically very similar.
Yeah.
And so then it is flipped inside out. So say the lion, the paws, it's flipped inside out, like you've turned a sweater inside out, and then different types of blades. Back in the day, it would be like a rock, you know, a sharp obsidian stone. But blades are just used to very slowly scrape all of the tissue off of it. And what was originally used was combinations of salt and arsenic. That was the most popular. And it was used to dry and preserve the skin. And the arsenic also worked well to repel bugs.
Yeah.
But obviously it's so toxic and poisonous. People were dying. Specimens were, people didn't realize, you know, they were touching them, petting them, and, you know, they were getting arsenic poisoning.
That's crazy.
And so, you know, it did change. Very early, they switched to just salt, and borax was used to replace arsenic. And that's exactly what I use. I actually have 2 of the quail chicks of yours that had passed away in borax right now with some herbs to help with the smell and salt. But it's just so humid because it's cold.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. It's working, but it's so slow.
Yeah.
So this is the way that this works, and it's pretty much the way that it stayed. But the crazy part is that the arsenic still stayed in until like the late 1800s.
That's crazy.
So, but I mean, they were still shooting up mercury and stuff. Like, I have some old medical textbooks that I've made some. Yes, I know people. They're not worth anything. They're literally not worth anything. They're falling apart. And I've made some like art projects because I'll cut out the recipes for these treatments. It's literally like a recipe for breast cancerous ulcers, and they're like rub mercury and take a tincture of like arsenic and silver, colloidal silver. It's crazy. It's a lot.
With
like
the
things
side of cocaine.
Exactly. Yep. And then some morphine and laudanum so you can go to sleep through the pain. So are you okay? So sorry. The reason why it ended, it lasted so late was that the old timers wanted to keep the tradition. They're like, this is what works and we don't want to change it. It always worked for me and I didn't get arsenic poisoning. Yeah. We all know somebody like that. That's like, well, I did this for 1,000 years and I'm fine.
Yeah.
So, of course, this is my favorite. Taxidermy took a hilarious turn in the Victorian times. And unfortunately, they were so into taxidermy and stuff that they actually extinct a lot of species of birds because they would make the whole bird into a hat. Like taxidermy, preserve it, the whole skin, feet, just I got a bird on my head.
That's crazy.
Like, yeah, but also for decoration in their house. I can appreciate the fact that a lot of this was some of the way that, like, the lion is the only way that people could see these types of creatures, these birds, was through this way.
It's like at the museum by us, they have a really extensive bird. Have you been to that one?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
So many birds.
I know. We always talk about it. I want to go so bad, but
it's
no.
So pretty. And
we could totally get the school to make a field trip for us.
I think so. But it's so pretty because they're all perfectly preserved.
Yeah.
And you could, birds I've never seen. I've never seen a penguin up close. Now I have.
Yeah.
Like,
it is. It does make it fit.
I'm surprised at how big they are because you don't think about it until you're standing next to one that's like taxidermy and you're like fully preserved.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy cow, that's bigger than my kid. So
it really is funny. And so unfortunately nobody was thinking about like we could kill an entire species of something, so they went kind of crazy. One of the things they also started to do was anthropomorphic taxidermy.
Okay.
So this is the term would be like animals that are doing human things. So like a couple examples would be there's one that I saw that was frogs playing pool.
Yeah. I was going to say frogs having tea.
Yes. And some of the most famous were like I think it was squirrels that were boxing. They had them playing cards and even cooking, and I love them. Of course I do.
Yeah.
They're so funny. And here's an interesting thing. I'm not almost done, but it's just where we're coming to. If it weren't for taxidermy, the bison of Yellowstone actually probably wouldn't have survived.
Oh.
William Hornaday, he was a head taxidermist at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. in 1880. He actually brought taxidermy specimens to Washington from, over here.
Yeah.
So that he could display them so they could be seen and helped because they were beautiful and important. And also, just like you said, huge. Like people don't, if you've never seen one, it's like as tall as a truck, like as big as a van.
They're
like,
huge. At the Natural History Museum,
yes.
they have them. And I'm like, whoa.
It's intense.
It's crazy
it really
how big they are.
And so because of this, his dedication led to the preservation and federally protected bison range in Yellowstone. So if it wasn't for him, they probably would have become extinct or basically nearly extinct. Another ornithologist, John Hancock of England, he really, really developed the process of taxidermy with clay and plaster type of body forms for birds specifically.
Okay.
He would preserve them, and in 1851 at the Great Exhibition in London, his birds people went nuts for them because they were the best anybody had ever seen. The way that he resculpted the feathers to make sure that these like jungle species were beautiful, and so they were the most lifelike and realistic birds at that point that had ever been displayed. And after him, taxidermy really took off, and then it went into people had started the fashion. That sounds terrible, but it is what it is. The trend of taxiderming pets came right around then, when
Okay.
people realized like you can preserve an animal to look exactly the same. People wanted to keep those babies with them, and so that started then. See, the Victorians did everything.
Yeah, I saw a video, I can't remember where it was recently, where she was talking about how like she had someone coming to do some work in her basement, and they were like, man, I've never seen cats stay that still. They were all like preserved. She had like 2 or 3 of her cats like on cat beds down there.
Yeah. Oh no.
And so he thought they were like,
they're so sleepy and old.
Yeah, they're just really
They're
tired.
seniors.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, I could never taxidermy.
I
I
don't
could
think I
not
could
do
either.
that
Mm-mm.
with Kiki.
Nope. It's so strange. I can't bring
No.
myself to it, and it made me sad.
Yeah.
So one of the best known taxidermists of these anthropomorphic animals that I had brought up before, his name is Walter Potter. And his are amazing and so ridiculous. And because I think I'm just going to, I'm not going to show any pictures of the process. If you want to see it, you can look it up yourself. So I'm going to do like the lion, and I'll do a couple of these because they're so silly. And again, like people think like, oh my God, did he kill all these animals? The likelihood is no, because if you raise rabbits, as Amy does, sometimes a lot of bunnies pass away at one time.
We've lost whole
clutches. Is that what you call it? A clutch, I think. It's rough.
And
nature
and
isn't
then
super
sometimes
cute.
a rabbit just dies. Like we just lost Bo.
They're fragile.
Yeah.
So one of the things he had was called the rabbit school, which was 48 tiny rabbits, and they're sitting at desks, and they like have tiny little slates, and they're writing. Another was called the kitten's wedding, and that's an entire like wedding procession of kittens. I know. There was another one of just kittens playing croquet. But the thing was, what people loved was that it truly was such an art form, including like the miniature aspect of it, because he handmade all the clothing. He did all the taxidermy himself. And even the kitten bride had tiny little undergarments.
Oh my
like gosh. He did the whole thing. And it wasn't a joke to him, They were these dioramas. But the problem was they still weren't like great because, again, like they only had so many resources yet. I will get into it, but like nowadays forms are used. They're like really, really dense foam, and you can like carve them to shape and stuff. So back then they didn't have that.
Yeah.
So, and if you used clay and plaster, these would be so heavy. Like the reality of moving an entire deer made of clay and plaster inside is crazy.
Yeah.
So, so he did his best because he actually was like no formal training. So the reason why he had initially started was because his family owned a pub called the White Lion, and he wanted their like patronage was kind of dropping off, and he wanted to make sure that they had something like to look in that would draw people in. So that's why he started making these dioramas. And he also did my favorite kind, the poor little babies that are weird. So he also had 2-headed lambs and 4-legged chickens, and they were all displayed there, and it really worked. People really loved it. It was different. It was so different than anything anyone had ever seen, and it was really great. And nowadays his collection, it was really sad. I had a little bit more history, and I don't know what happened. I got lazy. I literally was doing it up until the moment we came to record. We struggled this week.
Yeah.
So I think what happened is eventually the pub fell out of ownership of his family, as a generation, passes, because this was still the 1800s. And then his collection was separated, and it was in pounds. So like with the way that money is so different now, but it was each of his little dioramas, like the 48 little bunnies at school, they were sold for like 23,000 pounds. Like each little, they made a lot of money off of them. I think one of them was almost like $100,000 or something.
Oh, wow.
And then the auctioneering house got in a bunch of trouble because somebody offered like £1 million to buy the whole collection, and they turned it down for some reason.
What?
And they got in a bunch of trouble. I'm sorry, I fudged that up. There was a little bit more to that.
Yeah.
Silly.
It's okay.
So once we hit the 19th century, that's when things changed, and we started getting these mannequin forms, which were also started with armatures with the formation of like thick wires, and they would wrap those in cotton and wool, and that would be a better base. But again, those are still natural fibers, and those are susceptible to bugs and moisture and all those things. So when cellulose was really formed and we were able to make paper, and then eventually we moved on to the chemicals that made these foams and stuff, because that came before plastic, we made these mannequin forms, and they would come so simple, prepared in all the positions, standing up, lying down, and just the deer head forms. And what they can do is, because of it's a foam structure, they started using pins. And this led to better structures, because the process of scraping the skin and packing it with the borax, you're putting it on the form while it's still not wet, but it's damp. Yeah. It's very pliable still. So you do dry it out for a short amount of time, like a couple. I know, like with taxiderming small rodents, it's like a day in the borax and salt, and it helps dry out some of the moisture and get it ready. And then you just kind of shake it off, but you leave some of it on there because it's like going to continue the process of drying on the form with the pins holding it in place. But still, all animals are different, and so these simple form structures can be used for other things in a pinch, and you can add clay on top of it to sculpt up a slightly different feature. Like, say you only have a form for a lamb, but you have a goat. Some are interchangeable, so you just would build up the lips differently on a goat than you would a sheep. And so things like that. But it became very, very simple and really amazing as we hit into like the golly bob howdy, the 1900s. Isn't that terrible?
I know.
But later, the biggest breakthrough in the taxidermy world was freeze drying. And this was something that was always used in like NASA, but not in like an average setting. Nowadays, you can buy freeze dried Skittles like at the grocery store. But they're still really expensive. Even those candies are expensive, and it's because the process actually takes such a long time to do, and the machines need constant maintenance. So it's not something that is normal for the consumer. Like, say you wanted to have your little cat preserve, it's going to freeze dried. It's like $1,000. Yeah. And large animals can take like 6 months. It's unbelievable. And the difference is that the shape can be kept so well because they're not doing anything to it. There's no removing of the organs, no blood drainage. So there's weird. Nothing. No, it's completely solid. As your animal is completely there, and the process is so scientific. I cannot even. My brain can't. I was reading it and I was like, okay, I'll try to talk about it. But basically, what I got from it is it's just a vacuum chamber that shoots it like way below zero, and the cold temperature actually like explodes the water, and then the vapor is vacuumed out and it's pushing cold oxygen. It's weird, but that's about it. That's pretty much it. And so that leads to the driest beef jerky tissue you can imagine, but it's still susceptible to bugs. It is so susceptible because there's nothing protecting it. So there's not even any chemicals that they might not want to eat through. So typically freeze-dried specimens are always like in a dome and preserved in a way like a museum would be, which if you look in a museum, like say like a shadow box, if you look way up in a corner or way down in a corner, you're going to see like a little box, and it kind of looks like cardboard, and it's a special... it's basically like those silica packets that you have in shoe boxes, but it's like a special kind that constantly you swap it out, and it's to preserve. It takes moisture and oxygen. You'd probably have to do the same thing. Like, and also some of them have like, my sister would know. They have like some kind of a bug repellent kind of a thing that's like a natural like deterrent. It's crazy, and so I'm like, that's not a risk. You spend all that money and all that time, and then like moths are gonna eat your cat. Like that scares me. Or heaven forbid someone spilled something on it. Oh my gosh. Like there's no way. Yeah. So so excuse me, I'm so sorry. One of the things that I really love that has changed, because the art world is always changing, and I love that. The newest form of taxidermy that really has kind of taken off, but a lot of people don't love it because they see it as like weird and gross, as something that already kind of is, and I can understand. Is what is now called rogue taxidermy. And this uses a combination of different things, and typically it's a multimedia project. So I've seen one kind of taxidermy, a rogue taxidermy project that was like the front half was an eagle and the back half was like a lion cub.
Yeah, okay.
So it's
how you
like
make a liger.
Yeah. And so it was beautiful. And so it's things like that. But also I'll talk about one of my favorite artists. And it's so sad because I've seen people drag her in like taxidermy groups and stuff because they don't want to do any research. Her name is Brooke Weston. So like shout out. I don't know, she'd never hear it, but and she's one of, just personally, this is just one, she's one of my favorites, and she takes busted, like destroyed old like stuff taxidermy mounts. The ones that I love the most, I think she only works in deer, is antique deer, and she turns them into dollhouses.
What?
She turns them into dollhouses. She like opens the back. So from one side it just looks like a deer, and you turn it around. It's like nestled. It's beautiful. I think it's personally beautiful.
That is
and
weird.
So yeah, I get it.
No,
and
kind of cool. Creative.
And so, right? And everybody was just so mad. Like, I can't believe that had to die to be turned into a dollhouse. And it's like, it died like 100 years ago. Like, she's rescuing them from getting thrown away. Would you rather it be? And I get it. It's not for everybody. So I just love them, but there's a lot of, just if you look it up, they're amazing. If you don't mind that stuff, and I understand it's not for everybody. I'm sorry if this left a bad taste in your mouth. I get it. It's rough. It's not for everybody, you know, and not everybody can do it, because you have to be okay with like cutting open an animal, and even though it's dead, it's hard. Yeah. Like, and I still get emotional, but I would rather be emotional than just like whatever. Yeah. So, but I definitely still get emotional. So last but not least, this one's really interesting, and this is typical in museum settings, which is called study skin preservation. And it's pretty self-explanatory. It's meant for study. So the process of this is very simply, the skin is taken off and it's prepared and it's left as it is, like flat. Okay. And so that they're able to just take it for measurements, you know, the year where it was found, to keep an eye on population and species of the area. Okay. And so the skin is scraped and scrubbed just like normal, but borax and cedar dust, the cedar is for the bugs. That's it. That's what it is. Cedar is in those museum things. I think sometimes it's like a cedar block.
Oh,
is
like
all
what
they
you
put
could put in your closet.
Exactly, for mothballs. Yeah. So borax and cedar dust is used, and that's what they pack it with. And then they just super quickly pack it up with cotton, and they just, because it's just meant for the study skin is just used for only the data and DNA preservation. So the looks don't matter at all. And if you were to look at one of these species or one of these specimens, you'll see like the cotton through the eye hole, like in the mouth, in the ear.
So it's not made to be pretty.
No, not at all. And with the birds, mammals are left on their bellies and birds are on their backs, and they're stored head to foot, side by side, because they're able to get as many as possible. And I know that like it's crazy if you look at the Smithsonian and you look up like birds, it's crazy the way you'll find the drawers, and you'll see like drawers pulled out and just dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, and I'm like,
wow. Yeah.
Why? But again, it's like, this was taken from January, this one's taken from the next year. And I know it seems harsh, but these things are how we keep population in control, but also it's population control, but it's necessary to continue species, because you have to see like, why are so many dying in this region? Well, all of these were born and one wing was shorter than the other. So it's like, these things matter, and it is harsh. But that's how a lot of populations stay around. And some of these are also collections from taxidermy, because they're all that exists anymore. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the thing is, in the end of this, I know it's kind of ugly to a lot of the population, and I understand that. I don't love it. I don't want a deer's head in my house. No. There's like very few things of that nature that I would, but it's definitely not that. I don't hunt. I never will. I don't even fish anymore because it makes me sad. Like, you know, so it's just like, I don't do it. I do it in the scale of like, we have animals that have passed away already, like little chicks and the bunnies. And I do wet specimens with that, chicken feet, but I'm never going to go and shoot an animal for that. And a lot of people that do taxidermy do not.
Yeah.
Most of it is what we call vulture culture. And that's some shit where I just like, that's how I started. I found a rat and I made a friend, and I made the biggest mistake, like, because I mean, she was fine with it. We stayed friendly, but you know, when you just get like word vomit and you just like, and you overshare, I literally met her the same day. And I was like, yeah, I found a rat at the playground and I cut its feet off. And then my brain went like Hagrid. Oh, I should not have said that. And I was like, fuck, what did I do? But she was just like, whoa, no way. And I was like, yeah. And they do make the cutest little mummified feet. They're so precious. And then I put a little jewelry cap on the end and people buy them. So the thing is, there's like a market for it, and that's what I do. And I could never kill a creature just for that purpose. Like things pass on, and that's how that happens.
Yeah.
You can even buy chicken feet at the grocery store and practice that way.
Oh, yeah, true.
So, you know, the thing is, like, it really is so much of an educational purpose. You have to think about the fact, like, I have friends that have never left the state they lived in.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so imagine, like, I actually looked around in the state of Wisconsin. They have the least amount, well, out of some that have none at all, but the least amount of moose. There's only about 20. So if you never left the state of Wisconsin, the possibility that you're going to see a moose is probably 0.
Yeah.
And so things like this, I get it. A lot of people don't agree with it, but it for educational reasons, to preserve things like that, people are like, well, I've never seen it. Why do I care? I don't know what a moose is, so whatever. Yeah. They do matter. And unfortunately, it takes something being in your face with facts and like, look at it. And that's a lot of where it leads to. Yeah. But again, a lot of the specimens that are at your museum are so old. Oh, like, yeah. They didn't just kill them for that, I promise. Like, no. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. And so, yeah, rest easy. I know it's hard sometimes, but I will never shoot a deer. Yeah. Ta-da! That
was good. I've seen taxidermy up close. I've seen good taxidermy and some bad taxidermy. I did find the video I was thinking of. Let me see if there's volume. Here. Wait. Let me go back. Okay, ready? Here, I'm going to show the video I was just talking about. You got to look.
I will. I'm sorry. My husband's leaving work and I'm so excited.
That's fine.
I don't think
Is he working tomorrow?
No.
Oh, Jack's not working tomorrow either. Okay, so the video I was talking about earlier, it's what it would be considered a mount. And it's in a bathroom. You could just Google it, like, but it's really funny.
What are you doing in there?
That is so funny.
They
look like they made them soft.
Yeah, they're soft.
Which is
they're squishy.
Funnier.
It's deer balls.
That is,
but it's not
silly.
Even like, it's just the butt. It's not legs or anything. It's butt,
it's just the bottom,
the butthole, everything. Like a tail up, and then the balls, and yeah, they're like squishy. But it was really funny. So I thought about that, and I was like, oh, I've seen like some funny, funny TikTok. But okay, well, this is gonna be a long episode. What is my computer doing? That was weird. My computer's been really...
It's been really rude.
I need to get a new one. So, yeah, we're already at almost an hour, and I haven't even gone yet, but that's okay. So,
I was surprised that ended up as long as it was.
Yeah. Well, mine isn't super long.
We always say that.
So, yeah, bringing it on down. But my case, I kind of struggled with trying to find something, and I always try to find something that I haven't heard before.
Yeah, me too.
And this was one of them. I'm sorry, you guys. My nose is so, like, my allergies are really bad.
Because it's been raining. It's knocking all the crap
so
out.
I feel so nasally right now.
All the bleach spray.
Yeah, that too. Okay, so my case is on Lori Ruff. So this happens back in 2010, so not that long ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so what, 14 years ago? Mm-hmm. So on December...
Right around the time of my last crime. Sorry.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because that was in the 2000s.
Boy, we're taking it back to vintage times.
So, okay, so this happens actually Christmas Eve on 2010 in Longview, Texas, just before 7 a.m. John Ruff went into his garage to go out and get his newspaper. So, he just opens it up, and then he noticed that there was a car running with the headlights on in his driveway.
Oh.
So...
Oh, I hate that. If somebody has to, back up into the driveway to, turn down the street. And I'm like, why are you in my driveway?
Yeah. Yeah. So he sees this car, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. So he just closes... it's early morning, so he just closes the garage and goes in and calls 911. Mm-hmm. So police arrive at the house, and they could see car is exactly as he said, running, headlights on in the driveway. They couldn't tell if anyone was in the car, and John couldn't tell either. When he saw it, he just was like, "Oops, something's going on." So, they're really cautious. They go up and they look inside of the car, and they could see blood spatter on the center of the dashboard and some on the overhead console thing. Uh-huh. And there was a deceased white female in the driver's seat.
Oh, no.
She had her seatbelt on, and she was slumped over the steering wheel, and she had a gunshot wound to her right temple. So,
dang, is this 2 in a row?
Yeah. So detectives, it's crazy how much this is. Little things are going to remind you of yours. So detectives immediately start taking pictures and looking at everything that's inside the car. There's a purse on the seat, driver's license side of it. And they look and they see that the deceased female is Lori Ruff. So Lori and her husband, Blake, lived in Leonard, Texas, which is about an hour away from Longview where she was found. Mm-hmm. A little over an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And so Lori was really outgoing, assertive. She went to college at University of Texas in Arlington and studied business administration. She didn't have a whole lot of money, but she did some secretarial work, computer work, and then even worked as a mystery shopper.
That's cool. I always wanted to do that.
Yeah. She attended a mega church called Fellowship Church, but then left because she thought it was too secular. Oh. And then she attended Northwest Bible, and that is where she met her husband, Blake. And they're really opposite of each other. Uh-huh. Opposites attract.
Yeah.
And so Blake's parents are John and Nancy Ruff. Okay. The family owned a bank and a real estate company, and they were respected, members of the community. Mm-hmm. And they actually didn't really trust Lori, and they were like, it just feels like she's hiding something. Mm-hmm. But even though Blake knew, he was like, I love her, I'm going to marry her, whatever. Mm-hmm. He knew how his family felt about Lori. But in January 2004, Blake and Lori eloped, and they got married at a small church, and the pastor was the only one there. So it was just the two of them and the pastor. Oh. So
I guess if your family doesn't.
Yeah, they're like, let's just get married. We want to get married. Mm-hmm. So they then moved to Leonard, and they immediately were like, we're going to start building our family. Yeah. Trying for a baby. Unfortunately, it wasn't happening, and Lori ended up having 4 miscarriages. Oh. Yeah. And then finally got pregnant, and they had their daughter in 2008. Mm. So she was finally living, her dream life, married with a baby in a house in a small town. But clearly things were not as they seemed, because the crime scene shows that Lori was not only found with a gunshot wound in her head, but she also had a pistol in her right hand. So it looked like suicide. Ooh. So in the cargo area in the back, there were 2 notes. One envelope said it was for Blakely, my wonderful husband, and the other one was for her daughter to be opened on her 18th birthday. Mm. The letter to her husband was 11 pages long, typed up. 11 pages long. So in the note, she says that she didn't want to die being divorced, so she did this before it was finalized. She said that he was still her husband, and she could not bear the pain of not growing old with him. She talks about how his family made a bunch of, quote, assumptions about her that were wrong. And there's it's 11 pages. It's a lot of information, a lot of just stuff that probably was on her mind. I don't know. It was just a lot. Mm-hmm. So I know it's kind of hard to follow with the name. Well, not really hard to follow, but do you remember in the beginning, the 911 call, the person that made that call was John. Blake's father.
Right.
Yes. So she was at her in-laws' house.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird. Like, why
She
would you drive
supposedly
over?
killed herself at her in-laws' house?
So why would
I'll
you
show
like,
them?
Yeah. On Christmas Eve. So,
Wow.
but get this. Blake and her daughter were in the house at the in-laws' house.
Okay. Which makes sense. It's about to be Christmas.
Mm-hmm. And so when the family is told that it was Lori that was in the car and that she had committed suicide, the in-laws were actually like angry. I mean, I probably would be too. Like, why would you do that? Like in the driveway. Yeah. So this is when they start to realize, like, oh, there's obviously some family issues going on. Mm-hmm. The in-laws tell detectives that Lori wouldn't talk about her family, her past, and like she would always change the subject or deflect the question. She's trying to hide something. They were like, we just never had a good vibe about her. Mm-hmm. She's super private about her life. So here's the thing: is she did tell a friend that her parents were divorced and her father was an atheist womanizer, so she didn't want anything to do with her family.
Okay. Which, I mean, was happily religious.
Yeah. But then she told Blake, his parents, their friends, and a neighbor that her parents died and she just didn't have any family.
Oh, wow. That's very different.
Yeah. So it's like, what? But she was very secretive about her, I don't know. Some people just don't want to bring up their past. And it's like, nope, this is my life now. Like, what does it matter? Mm-hmm. So then they find out that Blake had actually left Lori on Father's Day 2010 that year and moved in with his parents.
Okay.
And he wanted a divorce. And Lori did not want to get divorced. And she was blaming her husband's family, saying that his family wanted him to get divorced, that she wouldn't steal his inheritance. It's like all this stuff. She wanted to stay married and have her family back together. Of course, the family's saying that Lori was keeping her. She was super close to her daughter, like overprotective of her daughter. Mm-hmm. They said she was keeping her daughter away from them, probably because they didn't like her. Mm-hmm. And so that's what caused a bunch of problems. They said that when Blake left Lori, she began making threats. Ooh. And they had to get a cease and desist order against her. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't sound like it was not a good divorce. She really did not want to get divorced.
I mean, she said in the letter.
Mm-hmm. So days before her death, she had actually barged into their house while they were having dinner and said she wanted Blake and their daughter to come home. She had to be forcibly removed from the house. No. So it does not look like everything was great. Right. So after Lori's suicide, Blake was like, I'm not going back home, to Leonard or whatever. I'm, just going to keep my daughter out here. Mm-hmm. And so his family helped clean out the house. And so in this process, they're cleaning it out, but they're also seeing who really was Lori? Mm-hmm. Who is she? Because we don't know anything really about her. And in her suicide note to Blake, she had told him, and you can see it in her letter. You can look up her letter, but she said she wanted him to clean out the house himself and not have anyone else do it, and to respect her wish. Mm-hmm. But of course, his family is helping clear out the house. So they're clearing it out, and they find a lockbox in the bottom of a closet labeled crafts. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So Blake said, oh, Lori told me not to ever open it. So I didn't, I don't care. But inside that lockbox was a birth certificate from California. Now remember, they're in Texas, with the name Becky Sue Turner. There was also a driver's license issued in Idaho to Becky Sue Turner. And the picture, it's Lori. It's her. Okay.
I was waiting for you to be like, wasn't her. And I was like,
no,
who did you steal?
It's Lori.
Okay.
It's her. So they're like, what the heck? And there's also a court document from 1988 where Becky Sue Turner changed her name to Lori Kennedy. Okay. That was the name that her husband, when they met, because then she became Lori Ruff. So there was also some pieces of paper with writings and scribbles on them. And there's stuff for 402 months. There was a lawyer's name, just random. It was really random, little, I don't know, a big,
the unraveling of a brain.
Yeah. And why is it kept in with all of this stuff? So now detectives are looking into who's Becky Sue Turner? So Blake's brother-in-law actually decided to hire a private investigator to look into who Becky Sue Turner was.
Yeah.
And the investigator found an article from the early 70s, and the article said that Becky Sue Turner and her 2 sisters died in a house fire, and her parents were hospitalized. Yeah. So so she's not even Becky Sue Turner. Becky Sue Turner's dead.
Yeah.
She was 2 when
So
the house
she
fire
stole
happened.
an identity of a baby.
Yes. So they asked Becky Sue's parents if they knew who she was, and they're like, we don't know who she is. We don't even know how she would know Becky Sue. Becky Sue was 2, you know? And so now it's just more like, why did she change her? Who was she before Becky Sue Turner?
Yeah.
So then they started, okay, now we got to look at these pieces of paper. There's the name of a lawyer named Ben Perkins. So they call them, and he said, nope, we never met. Don't know who she is. The phone numbers she wrote down were called. That didn't lead to anything. So it was just kind of like a dead end. We don't know who this person is. So 10 months after her death, the Ruffs actually reached out to the Social Security Administration because, like, they could look into identity theft. Because clearly,
right,
she took someone's identity. Who was she before? And why did she change her name? So they were able to find a student aid form from college, and the reference on there listed her ex-boyfriend. And so they asked him, and he's like, I don't know, like, we split up, and the last thing I heard, she was stripping down, like, outside of Dallas. And they're like, stripping? She's like, think about it. Like, she was attending church. She was, like, super religious. So it's like, I don't know about that. So, once again, just another dead end. So then it's just more questions. Well, was she really stripping? Who was she? It's just, it started to get crazy. So the Social Security Administration actually spent a year on her case.
Wow.
And they couldn't find anything. So the next step, media.
Dang. Yeah.
Got to go to the media. You know, somebody's got to know her.
Do you know this person?
Yeah.
Unsolved mysteries.
Yeah. So now it's like 2013, in June of 2013. There is a group of these like amateur and professional, like detective, like actual detectives and stuff, sleuths, online sleuths that are in this group. One of them, his name is Brett Nelson, and he saw the article in the Seattle Times about the Jane Doe who stole a child's identity. Because now she's not Lori Ruff.
Right.
She's not Lori Turner. She's Becky Sue Turner. She's a no name. She's a Jane Doe. They don't know who she really is. So he sees this Seattle Times article, and it'll be in the references, who stole this child's identity. And so they're actually like, all these internet sleuths are like working together, finding out who she is. Of course, there's a million theories. Maybe she's on the run from committing a crime. Is she a spy? Is she running from a cult? Like, all these things.
Right.
So Brett Nelson had taken those notes that were scribbled, and he created a customized like infrared spectrum of colors to overlay to see. And he saw, like, once he overlaid them, he realized that there was like another sheet on top of these scribbles that she had written on top of, you know, that weren't included in those 2 pieces of paper. And kind of looked like some numbers, like it was just an indentation that was revealed from the spectrum of colors. And so it's like another clue, like a number, is it? So one of these sleuths, Kenda Martinez, was looking into it, and she found out that Lori had a couple of post boxes in different cities in 2 different states. So like the mail was being forwarded from one post office box to the other, and then it would like end up in a post office box in Dallas. So like, why, like, she's doing a lot of steps to try to hide, or maybe establish residency, or, you know, whatever. Yeah. I think that's why you're not allowed to use a PO box to prove residence in a state, because anybody could get a PO box anywhere
as long as you pay for it.
Yeah. So she was paying for him. But so then, you know, this is kind of another dead end. So it's just more questions. Why has she got all these PO boxes, and what is happening? It's a lot of steps to try to hide her past, I guess. So then in 2016, this is 6 years after her death, these amateur sleuths are, you know, you kind of have your cases you're looking on and stuff, and then they notice, like, wait, her name is taken off of NamUs. And NamUs is the database, missing persons database, where they have, like, you know, pictures and stuff, which means they figured out her identity. So the way that this happened was the Ruff family submitted DNA from Lori's daughter to 23andMe and Ancestry.com. So then a forensic genealogist named Colleen Fitzpatrick, on her own time, started looking into the case to build her family tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of distant cousins and stuff, but you got to narrow it down to more immediate family.
Mm-hmm.
And she was actually able to find Lori's family in Pennsylvania, which then led to her name, Kimberly McLean. So, who's Kimberly McLean? In 1977 in Winewood, Pennsylvania, Kimberly's mom, Deanne, was a stay-at-home mom. Her dad was in construction and volunteered at a local firehouse. And she had an older sister named Michelle. So she's got family.
Yeah.
Classmates and old friends of hers seemed like they said it was not a normal family, like at all.
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly was really shy, kept to herself. And then just one day in high school, she just disappeared and stopped coming to school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad because classmates were like, we didn't really notice she was gone. It's just like, oh, what happened to her? She was just kind of the...
That's probably what happened to me.
Yeah. Oh, no, don't say that. But
Is my name really Elaine?
Or is it Kimberly?
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. So, yeah, she just stopped coming to school. And she actually had dropped out of school. She was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And she moved a half hour away, called up her mom and told her, don't come looking for me. And she didn't.
That's weird.
Yeah, because it's like, well, she's 18. She's an adult. Fine, whatever. Bye. And
Maybe she'll come around is probably what she thought. Oh, it's just a phase. She's probably just being rebellious.
Nope, she left.
Damn, that's crazy.
Then a year later, her dad dies.
Oh.
And his
Well,
estate
probably
was...
not like she cared, I guess.
His estate was left to his daughter since he had divorced his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, well, we got to find Kimberly because it's between Kimberly and Michelle. Like, they got to split it. And they found an address in Utah and they sent a letter. But at this time, this is when she starts to change her name. So it's likely she just never got the letter. She was set to inherit $84,000.
Mm-hmm.
You would think at least like, okay, send me my money. But so maybe she didn't get the letter or maybe she just didn't care and she really wanted to disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Because really and truly, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. So.
And so that's what a lot of people looking into the case are saying. She's probably trying to leave her past behind, maybe some abuse. Her father was very controlling and her parents did not have a happy marriage. They divorced.
Right, yeah.
Her dad was an alcoholic and he was very clearly verbally abusive. And her mom is actually trying to save money to leave her husband. It was that bad. So,
who knows what was happening?
Most likely she did have an abusive upbringing, whether it's verbally, physically,
Exactly.
sexually. It could
all
be
is
anything.
traumatic.
Yes. So here's the thing. She did commit identity theft, but there's no victim in the case. She never stole money.
That's true.
She just took a name.
She just needed somebody else's name.
Yeah. And so that's basically it. Like, it was, now we know who she is, but why did she kill herself? And I really do think she didn't want her daughter to grow up in a broken family.
Like that solved it.
Yeah. She probably felt like a failure in some way. She was devastated to lose her husband and the life that she had.
She had past trauma. She probably was a
But
lot
also,
more.
she was lying to her family on a daily basis.
Yeah.
On who she was. And
it's crazy because it's not like she did anything. So it's like, why would you?
No, she did not commit a crime.
I just realized your phone matches your Stanley.
Oh, yeah.
Is that like, I'd be like, look, honey, I love you, but a long time ago, I just didn't think it was important. And for whatever reason, it's bothering me. Like, why?
Yeah.
What does it change?
I don't know.
Maybe because like the little girl has grandparents or did. She had a grandma at least and an auntie. So, but at the same time, like, I have a relative I don't fucking talk to because I don't give a shit about it.
I have relatives I don't talk to.
So I'm like, it's no skin off my teeth.
Yeah.
And Lenora's kept away from them for reasons. And so it's like, I don't care that. But I guess at the same time, she does know those people exist, but I've told her the truth. And just like, they're not cool to be around.
So I don't know. I think it was just maybe trauma. Who
Yeah.
knows? But
It's just so sad that it had to go that way because it didn't have to.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of struggled with this after. I was like, oh, well,
she's wrong, but she's not like fucking up the credit of that person.
No, it's like she just took a dead 2-year-old's name.
It's weird. It's a lot of work to go through when you can legally just change your own name.
And then she legally changed it again. I think she assumed that name and then did a legal name change
to break
so
it
that
up.
it would never lead back to her.
That's very true.
But then it's like she had to know you have a daughter with your DNA.
Yeah.
I mean, this is in 2010, so it's like we were coming up on, I'm like, when did 23andMe and Ancestry all start? I can't even remember. It was like a while ago, but it's like, you got to know. It's
like we were already graduated by then, so I'm pretty sure Ancestry had been around since before then. They weren't doing the DNA, but like you could still link stuff up if you worked really hard.
Yeah, I did the Ancestry before the DNA thing.
Yeah.
And then I did the DNA thing.
I think I told you, but my mother-in-law used to do genealogy in the library that they lived in.
Yeah, you did tell me.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I have to talk to her about that. I love that.
It is.
Dang, that was crazy.
Really
that
weird.
was very different.
Yeah,
I was like, wait, who killed her?
I know.
She did.
That's the whole time as I'm listening to this
so
case.
Sad.
But yeah, she did.
Gosh.
She did kill herself in her in-laws' driveway while her in-laws, her husband, and her daughter were inside.
That's really selfish and
and
rude, but
it is
to be so mentally ill. That's so sad.
She probably really did do this out of spite for the in-laws, like, you made him leave me.
But I mean, when you're not mentally healthy, that's so sad.
And
it hurts me so much because, again, like as a mom, I was like, now your kid doesn't have a mom and has to deal with like, I wasn't good enough to keep you alive. That's what children are going to do.
Yeah.
Like that is so sad and unfair.
And
like a broken home, it's way more broken now.
Yeah. And her daughter was young too. So,
it sucks. It's really sad and it makes me upset.
I know.
But and dang, that was crazy.
I know. It's not what I was expecting either.
That's totally not what
so
I
was like, it's a little different because
we've been trying to kind of like do something else.
There's an investigation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of investigative
I was waiting
work.
for it to be the father-in-law.
Yeah. The one who found her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Dang.
I was not expecting that.
That's
And I was
really
like,
sad.
oh, well, there was a crime identity theft. Kind of like your last one where there was like, not identity theft, but took his card. And But yeah, so it's a little different. But there you go. Yeah, I was totally expecting it to twist and like.
Me too. I was waiting.
She committed murders and stuff. It's like,
exactly.
No, she was just sad, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, nobody does that for nothing.
No.
I mean, okay, let me back up. Yes, there are some personality types that would do it for nothing because some people just have, like different types of like borderline personality disorder has an issue with that. A true sociopath will have an issue. They wouldn't care, but under normal but also she has a happy family. She wants to keep her family together, so she doesn't have those kinds of things. Obviously we can't diagnose people, but very rarely does somebody completely abandon their family for nothing. So it's very suspicious to me. So it makes it really, really sad.
Yeah.
Makes me very sad.
Yeah. So,
get help. Don't hurt yourself.
Yes,
there's literally no reason. I guarantee you your family would rather know and your children would rather have you around. And
because it is like, she did
you
lie
made a
to her
mistake.
husband.
She made a mistake, a bad one, but like she didn't even.
No, it's not even a bad one. It's
it
like
wasn't
I
even
had a horrible
covering...
childhood. This is trauma I've lived with,
and it was the only way I could get rid of it.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, so you're not the name you said you were.
It's literally a name. Yeah, that's really sad. So just very rarely is there anything that's like so bad that somebody won't forgive you for, or at least understand. I mean, I understand her marriage wasn't going to work out anyway.
No,
but everything.
It's like she could have created a whole new life, and
and your daughter still could have had you around.
Yeah.
So it's never worth it.
Nope,
That's
divorce
very
is
sad.
never the end.
No. I literally just heard an article about somebody it was like so precious. She got married and she was like 86.
Oh,
I was like, why not? Because you're in love and you just want to say it, and it's important to you.
On that show Hoarders, when we'll watch Hoarders, it's crazy how many older people are on Hoarders, and they're like, oh yeah, so I want my girlfriend to move in. I'm like, Dad, you're like 70.
Yes.
Like, what the heck? I just watched one where he wanted his girlfriend to live with him, and he was like, like 60 or 70 years old.
The interesting part is it's because those older generations are realizing like, fuck this, I can get divorced if I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And because, that was so frowned upon, so many men and women stayed in terrible relationships. And so now these people of this age are like, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
And if that is getting remarried at 86, why not?
Yeah.
It doesn't affect anybody except me being able to say that we did it.
To think like what her life could have been. She could have met somebody totally different and had a whole other life and
had her daughter.
Had her daughter and all that. So, it was sad. But, so... Anyways, that was
Crazy.
That's why I was like, I told my
that
mom
seriously was crazy. I was way expecting
Me
that to
too.
do something different.
When I was like watching, it'll be in the source notes and stuff. But yeah, I was like, what? That's not at all. Oh, okay, well, yeah, mine was kind of short, so it's not that much longer than
that was
usual.
a doozy though. That was cool.
I know you were like, oh, your eyeballs.
I seriously was like, who did she kill? What did she do?
I think that's what
the
everyone
father-in-law
thought.
did it.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone thought. That
Dang.
either if she really did, then what was she running from? Was she a spy? Like
I
people
think that's
were
the only
literally
one that
like,
we've done that was like that.
Yeah,
Good job.
it
That
was
crazy. It was
yeah.
sad, but that was very interesting.
had a lot of questions, but in the end, they're all answered. I mean, of course, not all. Like, who knows why? But yeah. So, anyways, well, with that, stay crafty
and not grimy. Bye.
Bye.